Today I want to go over a few things that I haven't been up to doing until now. On Sunday, December the 1st, there was a newswire, Canada Newswire. I want to read a few things from it. Okay, the advisory for parents. The Quebec government opens the door for euthanasia of children. The Coalition of Physicians for Social Justice asks the Attorney General for Canada to intervene in order to protect children and other vulnerable people. The Quebec government wants to get your kids under 18 and exterminate them. That's what they want. These psychopaths are beyond repair. They're beyond rehabilitation as civilized human beings. I'm going to read a couple of things. The Quebec Human Rights Commission. The Quebec Human Rights Commission presented its legal brief regarding Bill 52 on September the 20th, 2013. To the Commission de la Santé et des Services Sociaux and the National Assembly at Quebec, which brief was duly adopted by a formal resolution that recommends rendering accessible euthanasia to children. You worthless parasites. Do they include two new categories of people to target, to exterminate? Children under 18 and people who are not able to consent to being exterminated. Now, if you're somebody who stumbles across this video someday, and you're wondering, like probably most people think, I'm a little extreme. Well, I can understand how you think that way. But all this extermination campaigns all began with the revival of Operation T4. Hey, what's Operation T4? That's right, nobody's heard of it. Except people who are pretty well educated in history. But everybody's heard about the Right to Die movement. Yeah, they care about you. They sure do. Because now it's becoming pretty lucrative. Just go through the country, do your campaigns, get control of the media, and all the soap operas and the crybaby story documentaries of pain and suffering. And now the latest trick is to focus on the pain and suffering of the, quote, caregivers. Oh, you should just see what, you just don't know what it does to the families of the poor victims and all the suffering we go through. How sad. That's because your stinking attitudes. That's why you suffer so much. Your stinking attitudes. For thousands of years, people have died. They died great. And yes, there's always pain in life. And people have died in pain. But they weren't a bunch of chicken shits and pussies like what runs the social culture of Western developed nations. Now, our founding fathers worked to get out of the Dark Ages in the old world, Europe. They come here to set up and develop the new world. But they didn't come here to drag the so-called New World Order here to reign the kingdom of death. Any lawyers, philosophers, sociologists, ethics gurus who think you have a right to drown this world country by country in your culture of death. You people need to be exterminated. You don't deserve trials and convictions. Your poison has done nothing but gradually increase. And now you're down there in India and Africa, pushing your poison down everybody's throats. And up here in Canada, the one country you couldn't get your psyche-wucky ways, you're throwing so many temper tantrums that now you work full-time trivializing anything we say concerning the reports in Belgium, Oregon, Holland, and Switzerland. So you have your professional liars who go across the country and have their documentaries of sympathy. But you people never. The filmmakers don't give attention to Not Dead Yet and ADAPT and Euthanasia Prevention Coalition to do documentaries to hear from us. disability rights organizations, pro-life organizations. I really want to see a move made to put a stop to any further propaganda and campaigns in Canada and the US by the so-called right to die movement. So fed up of all these polywana cracker morons who don't have an original thought in their head. All they know is they've been brainwashed non-stop for 20 years now. That, did you hear what was in the news? Oh, yeah, somebody else committed suicide. Oh, somebody was arrested. Oh, no. Oh, they shouldn't do that. Oh, they're only doing what's in the best interest of the poor suffering victim. Bullshit. You've got this parasite named Robert Latimer, who he did a few years, then sort of like a big hero, because he killed his daughter. And you got Savannah Robinson out there. He's a hero. He helped get rid of Sue Rodriguez because she was sort of like Christopher Reeves. They're so scared of being disabled. And Sue Rodriguez pretty well pushed by the Duty to Die cult to let them get rid of her, assist her suicide, so and hunky-dory that would maybe she'd be wake up in a happy heaven, or maybe just go to sleep if she was a typical atheist. The one thing which is pretty noticeable in a lot, if not most of these aggressive campaigners for laws to be passed, their personal lives are miserable. Miserable, rotten personal lives to these people. And I know they get on television and on radio talk shows, and they just, what do you call it? They just boost the morale of these people so much. They're like, oh, they're always the best people a society could have. And then you've got the Cumbiuses who were in the movie documentary Suicide Tourist. And his star statement coming back from the airport in a car in Vancouver was, oh, I thought the Swiss would be more advanced in their thinking. And after that got a lot of attention, that statement, then Switzerland automatically moved their magic wand and said, sure, now in Switzerland you can allow children 14 years old to come in for qualify for assisted suicide. Yeah, if they just have a emotional problem, say, I'm depressed, I don't want to live anymore, I want to die, so yeah, we'll just help finish them off, and it's just a suicide. And then you've got in Oregon, for the past few years, now they just the cancer patients that can't prove they're going to live for another 5 years, oh, we can't afford that cancer treatment. It costs too much. But we can have all this murder medication. Yeah, well, it's suicide medication, but it's really not suicide medication. So Dr. Ironsides labels it homicide medication. Yeah. And meanwhile, these dirtbag propagandists are quick to say on the message boards and comment sections, times I've had rounds of words, the verbal combat with them. There's reports, they're false reports. There's safeguards, they work. Yeah. Yeah. I know one thing. Now I think, well, I've thought this for a long time, that they've had decades to make their point about pain and suffering. And what happened in 2010, after Francine Lalonde's last bill got flushed down the toilet, there was a lot of framework put together, but palliative care specialists, doctors across the country, members of parliament, you know, there's a system to take care of people's pain and suffering. And there never was, there never will be a justifiable reason to legalizing killing people off and decorate it with an umbrella of new definitions and titles to make it so caring. Yeah, we care about you. Yeah, we want your organs. That's another thing. They're getting so good at this now. All the sympathy and the crybaby stories that several places in the U.S. and in Ontario in Canada, they are trying to push a law passed, laws making it mandatory, making it your obligation that as soon as you die, they have a right to strip you of your organs. What a bunch of filthy, sickening pigs. You have organizations, departments and lawyers pounding away about women's bodies are their own and they have a right to control their own bodies. Yet, you are now insisting that anybody who dies, their body belongs to you. What a bunch of scum. Absolute scum of the earth. And why are these psychopaths allowed to get in this sort of social culture going? Because separation of church and state. Nah, 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 nah. Canadian laws are too religious. We gotta change Canadian laws because it is not right for those Christians to have a say in political matters. Well, guess what? I got a mouthful to say to that. If I didn't say it in the last video, I'll say it now. The separation of church and state law originally was clarified in a letter that separation of church and state was intended to keep the government out of the church's business. It was not at all intended to say the church had no say in government business. And I think there needs to be a turnaround in this pacifist submission of this church and state wrong definition, opportunist definition, to blame the church, to blame Christians of everything, and allow these psychopaths to control doctrines. The doctrines of politics, the doctrines of social conscience. And I really am hoping that people will watch this video and consider the points I'm making and go to work. Go to work and start toppling this attitude, this wrong definition of separation of church and state law. And for all you parasites out there, you kind of want to just blame the church, blame Christians for everything, all the wars, and all the pedophilia that has taken place in the Catholic Church and all that. You go ahead and blame the churches and Christians for whatever you want. But you know something? The Christians in this country, in the U.S., need to start putting their foot down and toppling this mismanagement of church and state laws. Every religion has been dragged into this country, to the U.S., and their religious and cultural traditions or routines have been legalized. The Muslims can go down there to the White House and rah any kind of prayer or a religious thing we want to do down there. Obama blesses it. And now he's trying to pretend he's a Christian. And he's got these theologians trying to run off this thing that he's a Christian, trying to get them the church to belong to, mainly because he wants votes from the churches in the next election. When this country and the U.S., after World War II, had a lot of Christian moral values, we didn't have this euthanasia shit. We didn't have all this belly aching and crying and moaning about Oh, the suffering people. People have always suffered. Thousands of years, it's a part of life. It is the idea that some of you parasites get laws passed to start killing people off, but only 20% of you most miserable rotters want to be exterminated, killed off your so-called death with dignity. What a bunch of bullshit. It's time to topple a lot of the stuff, the laws that have passed in the last 20 years, and start reinstalling the values that we had before all the world's immigrants came to change Canadian values and to change American values. Anybody who wants to come to the U.S. and Canada, it is expected of them to integrate into our society, integrate to our values, not drag their values, drag their cultural values to our country and make it a multicultural society. All this multicultural bullshit has ever done was multicultural for everybody but the Christians. It's time to overturn it. As far as the dirt bags from the right to die societies, I think they need to start dropping like cockroaches. Swat them like bloody flies. Pow! Pop! 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 Let's see here. I'm going to go to an article called The Inconvenient Truth about organ donations. The diagnosis of death by neurological criteria is theory, not scientific fact. Also, irreversibility of neurological function is a prognosis, not a medically observable fact. The coldly utilitarian goal of promoting the acceptance of brain death, says Dr. Fay, is to move to a society where people see organ donation as a social responsibility, and where donating organs would be accepted as a normal part of dying. In fact, it says the specific wishes of a donor opposed to having his organs removed would be bypassed by putting skilled pressure on surviving family members to approve the organ removal. You scum. Everybody involved in this philosophy should not even have a drop. You should get a taste of Fallujah. That's what you people deserve. We need a bloody military. It's not part of the New World Order to hunt you bastards down and make sure that your propaganda and your doctrines never come across a microphone, a speaker again. We need a pro-life value system. That's what we need. And you don't like a pro-value society, drop dead. But don't cry on people's shoulders expecting the governments to give you everything you want. Last thing I'm going to say is this idea that who are you to stop us from having our right? Because your rights are at my expense, and the expense of 80% of the execution victims. It is well documented that of all the campaigning and crybaby stories, only 20% of the people who get executed in Belgium and probably other places too, only 20% are the ones who got the service they wanted. And good riddance to the trash. So that makes it not a private family member in them, and not a private family issue. Michael Scheibel pulled that shit. Though Michael Scheibel didn't have brains up his ass, but George Felix was a religious cult guru, a lawyer. They decided to get the state of Florida to make the feeding tube a medical act. And so then they forced Terry to have a feeding tube fitted so Michael Scheibel could wheel the court procedures through to killing her off under some mythology, some imagined story he cooked up. Oh, Jerry wouldn't want to live this way. Well, she probably wouldn't. So why did Michael Scheibel beat the shit out of her and put her in that position? And then figured he's going to get the courts to finish her off, which threatened all of us. And now ever since he got the court to finish her off, thousands of people are being exterminated in the U.S. and Canada. Michael Scheibel was good at going on there, rah, rah, rah. This is a private family issue. It was bullshit as a private family issue. Once he got the courts to pass a law making a feeding tube a medical act, that was a public issue, not a private family matter. So all you people out there who try to engage a verbal combat with me about your private family, your private family matter versus the public thing, you can't have it both ways. I really do hope this Bill 52 gets flushed down the toilet, and that the government will put a stop to any further parades and parties and campaigns and crybaby episodes and soap operas, documentaries, and comedy shows. There are a string of stories of things that had happened with people who were thought to be dead. And it turned out they weren't dead. Right in the middle of extracting the organs. And there's a lot of controversy. They've been debating for years that some of the procedures to extract organs, they found that it can minimize the risk of the organ not being accepted by the recipient if the patient is anesthetized and extracted while they're alive. That's inhuman, it's inhumane, it's barbaric, it's selfish, and it stinks. So they'll allow any laws to legalize euthanasia in this country or any other country is part of a new lucrative money-making racket, blood money, of killing people off and getting their organs. Killing them off against their consent and taking their organs to get a high price tag for the organs. I don't know about you, I'm sick and fed up of an uncivilized, what used to be a developed nation called Canada. Uncivilized and barbaric. I hope somehow somebody is going to put a stop to all the non-stop passive means of going about fixing the problem. Anybody who wants death so much as these people are obsessed, they do not want anybody to think much of anything except party their life away and then promote laws for killing people off. A lot of people think that, ooh, hunky-dory. Once my turn, I'll just line up, get my lethal injection, I'll go to sleep. Just like that. But nobody knows what happens after you're dead. After you're really dead. The atheists, the atheists are the most pathetic losers. Yet they want to run this machine, killing machine. There they are. Belgium, Holland, Switzerland, Oregon. And they're pissed that they haven't got a law passed in Canada. And I know one thing. I'm not the only person. They was hell-bent to do anything necessary to block a killing machine in this country. I mean, he boasted in 2010 about, it's already going on. Now we need a law. Now we need the law so we can go get the bad guys. Nice try, you sucker. So they're going after children under 18. I was talking to the guy, I don't know if I put this on my last video, but here in the 90s, a lot of us met each other online in the world's first real multi-conferencing, video conferencing program, the Volcatech iPhone. The company was Volcatech. They produced the first program, iPhone. And a lot of us really got to know each other, became friends. In fact, we wound up having a big internet party down in Colorado Springs in July 1999. That was the last time I was ever in shape enough to get on a plane and go down there. But there were a few things went wrong on that trip. But hey, it was good to go down there and see a few people there. But we used to be on, be able to talk to each other on a microphone from anywhere in the world. There's one guy, I talked to him a few times. He was in Quebec. I'm in Montreal. But 30 years I got rid of Pell Talk. Okay, the Volcatech iPhone changed direction with what they were doing with their products. So there's another company sprung up called Pell Talk. So a lot of people, I was on Pell Talk for a while, but I decided to just get rid of it because I was getting hooked up with disability rights and bioethics and stuff, and studying a lot and just trying to and getting involved in the Terry Schiavo case. This year I reinstalled Bell Talk, and I was trying to find if any of my old contacts are online. Never saw them online. And one day there was this guy from Quebec. We got to talking to each other, wondering what we're doing the last 12 years. And when we got to talking about Bill 52, all of a sudden he just set him off. He wants it. He wants Bill 52. He wants to legalize euthanasia in Quebec. About the usual story. Oh, I've seen cases of or relative or family and blah blah blah. But I've got parents, and my parents died. But people who are pro-life have a whole different attitude. And, it's a bloody negative and depressing about how things are going with, parents when they get old and they go through their end of life stages. It's only these rotten atheist dirtbags and these Luciferians who really push these doctrines for human sacrifices. And anybody who thinks Luciferians aren't for real, they are. And you never know who is a Luciferian, but they are around. And anything to do with death and killing, they are there. So, I hate Luciferians, and they have good reason to hate me. And they have good reason to hate anybody who's a real Christian. I'm not talking about the pretty faces always afraid to get extreme or afraid of profane language. Yeah. I know one thing. I'm not a religious guy. I've seen too much religious hypocrisy in my life. But I know one thing. We need. So this guy, he was really heavy about it. He wanted to legalize euthanasia in Quebec. And so I was talking to him, and I said, well, if euthanasia had been legalized when I was growing up, in fact, with a lot of us baby boomer disabled kids who were born with birth defects, we would have never had a chance to live our lives. And would you rather that we had never been allowed to be born and to live our lives? And he says, absolutely. I said, oh, so you're saying that, okay, now, I'm 62, and I've lived and worked in different countries here in the 70s and 80s, and really had pretty good times. And, well, now, because of my birth defect, my aging factor is kicking in, and I do have to live with long-term care now. But you do wish that, you do think that it would have been better if we had never been born. He said, that's right. So, that's why I'm glad you dirtbags are not God. Although you've taken over everything to make yourselves God. And for you people to think that you have a right to decide who lives and who dies. You just smoke 10 pounds of grass up your asses. That's what I have to say to you.